If you see a child write SOS in blood on your car, don't you dare look away. That's what Cole Raven Maddox would tell anyone who asked him about that day. But on that scorching afternoon in Nevada, he wasn't thinking about heroics or morals or any of that. He was thinking about cold beer and air conditioning and maybe finding a motel room that didn't smell like cigarettes and regret. But life has a funny way of dragging you into hell whether you're ready or not. And sometimes hell starts with a bloody handprint on chrome. Before we dive into this story, and trust me, you need to hear every single word of what happened next, hit that subscribe button on right now. I mean it. This story goes places you won't believe, and I need you here until the very end. And drop a comment telling me what city you are watching from, because I want to know just how far this truth is spreading. Now let's get into it. The thing about the desert in July is that it doesn't care who you are. It'll bake you alive whether you're a saint or a sinner, and Cole Raven Maddox had never pretended to be the former. He pulled into the Sundown gas station just outside Laughlin, Nevada at exactly 3:47 p.m. on a Tuesday that felt like the world was trying to melt itself into oblivion. His Harley growled beneath him like a living thing, black chrome custom exhaust, the kind of machine that announced your arrival before you even turned the corner. Behind him, 8 more motorcycles rolled up in formation. The Hells Angels didn't travel alone, and they sure as hell didn't travel quiet. "Christ, I'm dying," muttered Tommy Wrench, Kowalski pulling off his helmet and revealing a sweat-soaked bandana underneath. "My balls are literally cooking." "Nobody asked about your balls, Wrench," said Maria Blade Cortez, the only woman in their crew and twice as mean as any of the men. She swung off her bike with the grace of someone who'd been riding since she could walk. Raven killed his engine and stood his 6-foot 4-inch frame unfolding slowly. At 48, he still looked like he could break a man in half without breaking a sweat, and the gray threading through his blonde hair only made him look more dangerous. 23 years since he'd left the Marines, but you never really left that kind of training behind. It lived in your bones. "Fill up quick," he said, his voice gravelly from years of cigarettes and desert air. "I want to make Kingman before dark." "You always want to make somewhere before dark," Blade said, grinning, "like you're scared of the boogeyman." "I am the boogeyman," Raven shot back, but there was no heat in it. He walked toward the station boots, crunching on gravel that felt hot enough to fry eggs. The place was a dump peeling paint flickering neon sign that read, "Pseudo and gas," because half the letters had died years ago. A couple of long-haul trucks sat in the lot like sleeping dinosaurs, their drivers probably inside sucking down coffee and lies about how many miles they'd covered. That's when he saw her. At first, she was just a shaped blonde hair catching the brutal sunlight barefoot, wearing a sundress that had seen better days. She was moving between the trucks like she was looking for something or maybe hiding from something. Raven's instincts kicked in immediately. Something was wrong. You didn't survive 2 tours in Fallujah without learning to read when a situation was about to go sideways. You seeing this? Wrench had come up beside him, following his gaze. "Yeah, she looks rough." She did. Even from 30 feet away, Raven could see the bruises on her arms the way she moved, too careful, too aware of her surroundings. Like prey. "Stay here," Raven said. "Raven man, we don't need trouble." "I said stay here." He started walking toward her, and that's when she turned and looked directly at him. 18, maybe 19 years old. Blue eyes that should have been full of life, but instead looked like someone had reached in and stolen something essential. Her face was pale despite the heat, and there was a cut on her lower lip that looked a few days old. "Miss," Raven said, keeping his voice gentle. "You okay?" She opened her mouth, but nothing came out. Her eyes darted past him toward the station, then back to his face. "You need help," he tried again. That's when he saw her wrist. At first, he thought it was a tattoo, some kind of barcode, the kind stupid kids got when they thought they were being edgy. But then he saw the number beneath it. Number 17, and he saw that it wasn't a tattoo at all. It was a brand, charred into her skin like she was livestock. "Jesus Christ," he breathed. The girl's eyes filled with tears, but she didn't make a sound. Instead, she did something that would haunt Raven for the rest of his life. She looked down at his motorcycle parked 10 feet away, its chrome fuel tank gleaming in the sun. Then she looked back at him, and he saw something shift in her expression. Not hope exactly, but desperation, so pure it was almost holy. She walked past him, moving fast now, and before he could process what was happening, She pressed her hand against the edge of his bike's chrome trim, where a sharp piece of custom metalwork jutted out at just the wrong angle. The sound she made when she cut herself was barely audible, but Raven heard it. A sharp intake of breath bitten off at the source. Blood welled up immediately, bright red against her pale palm. "What the hell are you?" Raven started forward, but she was faster. Using her bleeding hand, she wrote 3 letters on the side of his fuel tank. SOS. The blood was vivid against the black chrome, each letter shaking, but deliberate. "Holy shit," Wrench said behind him. Raven's heart was hammering now, every combat instinct screaming at him that he'd just walked into something bad. Really bad. "Who did this to you?" he demanded, reaching for her arm, but she jerked back. "Emma!" The voice came from the station entrance, sharp male angry. The girl, Emma, apparently went white. Actually white, like all the blood drained from her face in a single second. A man came striding across the lot, maybe 40 years old, wearing khakis and a polo shirt, like he was headed to a golf course instead of a shithole gas station in the middle of nowhere. But his eyes were wrong. Cold. The kind of cold Raven had seen in interrogation rooms, in dark alleys where bodies turned up later. "Emma, get over here right now," the man said, his voice tight with barely controlled rage. Emma looked at Raven one more time, and he saw something in her eyes that broke something inside him. It was a look that said, "Please, and I'm sorry, and help me," all at once. Then she turned and walked toward the man like a puppet on strings. "I'm sorry, honey," the man said loud enough for everyone to hear. "I told you to stay in the car. You know you get confused when it's hot." Confused, like she was simple, like she was the problem. Raven watched as the man grabbed Emma's elbow, not hard enough to look violent, but firm enough that Raven could see her wince, and started guiding her toward a black SUV parked on the far side of the lot. "Hold up," Raven called out. The man stopped, turned slowly. His face was pleasant, polite, the kind of face that belonged to PTA meetings and church barbecues. "Can I help you?" he asked. "The girl's bleeding." "Oh, she's clumsy. Always hurting herself." The man smiled, but it didn't reach his eyes. "I've got first aid in the car. Thanks for your concern, though." Every fiber of Raven's being was screaming at him to do something, but what the girl hadn't said anything. Hadn't asked for help out loud. And the man wasn't technically doing anything illegal that Raven could see. But that brand, that barcode. "Number 17, what's your name?" Raven asked, taking a step forward. The man's smile tightened. "I don't see how that's your business." "I'm making it my business." "Raven," Wrench said quietly behind him, "we don't know what this is." "I know exactly what this is," Raven said, not taking his eyes off the man. For a moment, nobody moved. The desert heat pressed down on all of them like a physical weight. Then Emma did something that changed everything. She turned her wrist just slightly, making sure Raven could see the brand again. And she mouthed 2 words clear as day. "Help me." The man saw it too. His face went hard and all pretense of politeness evaporating. "Get in the car, Emma, now." He shoved her toward the SUV harder this time, and Emma stumbled. That was enough. Raven was moving before he consciously decided to move, covering the distance in 3 long strides. He grabbed the man's shoulder and spun him around. "Take your hands off me," the man snarled, dropping the nice guy act entirely. "Who is she to you?" "My niece, and if you don't back off right now, I'm calling the cops." "Do it," Raven said. "Let's see what they say about that brand on her wrist." The man's eyes flickered just for a second, and Raven knew. He knew he'd hit something true. "You don't know what you're getting into," the man said quietly, his voice dropping to something dangerous. "Walk away." "I don't think I will." Behind Raven, he heard his crew moving closer. 8 bikers, all of them reading the situation, all of them ready. The man looked at them, looked at Raven, and seemed to calculate his odds. Then he smiled, actually smiled, and it was the coldest thing Raven had ever seen. "Fine," he said. "Keep the crazy bitch. She's more trouble than she's worth anyway." He turned and walked toward the SUV alone. For a moment, Raven thought he'd actually done it, thought the man was just going to leave. Then the man opened the SUV's passenger door, reached inside, and pulled out a gun. "Everybody down," Blade screamed. The first shot went wide, shattering the gas station window. The second hit the ground 3 feet from Raven's boots, spraying gravel. Raven grabbed Emma and threw her behind a parked truck as his crew scattered, everyone reaching for their own weapons, Because of course they were armed, they were Hell's Angels, and the highway was a dangerous place. "Don't kill Dad!" Raven shouted. "We need him alive." But the man wasn't sticking around to get caught. He fired 2 more shots, wild panicked, then jumped into the SUV and floored it, tires screaming as he fishtailed out of the parking lot and onto the highway. Within seconds, he was gone, leaving nothing but dust and the smell of burnt rubber. "Jesus Christ," Wrench said, standing up slowly. "What the hell was that?" Raven turned to Emma, who was pressed against the truck's wheel, shaking so hard he could see it from 10 feet away. "You're safe," he said, keeping his voice calm. "He's gone. You're safe." Emma looked up at him, and tears started streaming down her face, silent, devastating tears that spoke of horrors Raven could only imagine. "He'll come back," she whispered. "He always comes back." "Who will all of them?" Blade knelt down beside Emma, her tough exterior cracking. "Honey, who are you running from?" Emma looked at both of them, and Raven saw her make a decision. Saw the exact moment she chose to trust them, or at least chose to risk it. "My name is Emma Carter," she said, her voice barely audible. "I was kidnapped 2 years ago in California. I was 16. The words hung in the desert air like a death sentence. "They took me to a place called Black Hollow in Arizona." Emma's hands were shaking, clenched in her lap. "They sell girls there. Girls like me." "Who's they?" Raven demanded. "Everyone," Emma said simply. "The sheriff, the mayor, rich men, respectable men, men with families and jobs, and..." Her voice broke. "They sell us to other men. For parties, for whatever they want." Wrench looked like he might be sick. Blade's face had gone hard as stone. "The man with the gun," Raven asked. "His name is Derek Chen. He's one of the handlers." Emma wiped her face with her uninjured hand. "He was taking me to the summer auction. It happens every year in July. Rich men from all over the country come to Black Hollow, pretend they're there for a charity gala, and then..." She didn't finish. She didn't need to. "How many girls?" Blade asked quietly. "I don't know. Dozens? Maybe more." Emma looked up at the sky like she was seeing it clearly for the first time in years. "They keep us in the basement of the Prosperity Ranch. That's what they call it, like it's something holy." "And the brand?" Raven asked, though he already knew the answer would destroy him. Emma held up her wrist, showing the barcode and the number. "This is my product number," she said flatly. "Number 17, because I was the 17th girl that year." Nobody spoke. "What could you say to something like that?" "I need to get my sister out," Emma said suddenly, urgently. "She's only 14. They took her 6 months ago. I thought she was dead, but then I saw her 2 weeks ago. She's there. She's still there." Raven felt something ancient and violent wake up inside him. Something he'd kept locked away since he left the military. The part of him that had kicked down doors in Fallujah. The part that had done what needed doing, no matter how dark it got. "How far to Black Hollow?" he asked. 3 hours southeast. But you can't..." "Watch me." Emma grabbed his arm, her bloody hand leaving prints on his leather jacket. "You don't understand. These men are powerful. They have connections everywhere. Police, judges, politicians. If you go there, you'll disappear, just like we did." "Then I guess we better not get caught," Raven said. He looked at his crew. Wrench was nodding slowly. Blade's jaw was set, her eyes burning. The others, Snake, Diesel, Rico, Hawk, Phoenix, and Mouse, all looked back at him with the same expression. They were in. All of them. "Emma," Raven said, turning back to her, "I need you to tell me everything. Every detail you know. Names, faces, locations, security, everything." "Why?" she whispered. "Because we're going to burn that place to the ground," Raven said. "And we're going to get your sister back." For the first time since he'd seen her, Emma's face showed something other than fear. It showed hope, and hope Raven thought was the most dangerous weapon in the world. They drove to a motel 15 miles down the highway, a place called the Desert Rose, that looked like it hadn't seen a customer since 1987. Raven paid cash for 3 rooms, and they gathered in the largest one, which smelled like bleach and bad decisions. Emma sat on the edge of the bed, a bottle of water in her hands, while Blade carefully cleaned and bandaged the cut on her palm. "Start from the beginning," Raven said. "How did they take you?" Emma took a shaky breath. "I was at Coachella, the music festival in California, April 2024. I was 16 and I was with my friends. We were camping and she closed her eyes. I got separated from them, went to use a porta potty, and when I came out, it was dark. Someone grabbed me from behind, put something over my face. Chloroform, I think. I woke up in a van. Did you see who took you? No, but there were 3 men. They kept me drugged for most of the drive. When I woke up, I was in Black Hollow. Emma's voice was getting steadier now, like telling the story was giving her back some control. They kept me in a room with 4 other girls. All of us were between 15 and 20. All of us had been taken from somewhere. Did they hurt you? Blade asked quietly. Emma's face was answer enough. They broke us, she said simply. That's what they call it. Breaking. They do it to all the new girls. Beat you, starve you, threaten your family. Make you believe you're worth nothing, that nobody's looking for you, that this is all you deserve. Her hands tightened around the water bottle. Some girls break fast. Some take longer. I took 3 months. Raven felt rage building in his chest like a pressure system, but he kept his voice calm. How many people are involved? The core group is maybe 10 people. Derek Chen, the man at the gas station, he's head of security. Then there's the ranch owner, Marcus Holloway. He's old money, 3rd-generation rancher. Everyone in town thinks he's a saint. Emma's voice dripped with venom. Sheriff Tom Garrett is in on it. So is Mayor Patricia Caldwell. The town doctor, Andrew Reeves, he keeps us healthy enough to be useful. And then there are the handlers, people who move us between locations, keep us quiet, make sure we don't run. You ran today, Wrench pointed out, because they were moving me to a different facility. The summer auction is coming up, it's in 3 days, and they always move the premium product beforehand. She said the words like they tasted poisonous. Derek was transporting me alone because I've been compliant lately. He didn't think I'd try anything. Why did you? Raven asked. Emma looked at him directly. Because 2 days ago I saw my sister. They brought her upstairs for someone to look at her, and I saw her through a crack in the door. Lily, she's 14 years old and she should be starting high school in the fall, and instead she's in a basement waiting to be sold. Her voice broke on the last word and Blade pulled her into a hug. I couldn't let them take me away from her again, Emma whispered. Even if running meant dying, I had to try. I had to. You did good, Raven said. You did real good. Emma pulled back from Blade, wiping her eyes. There's something else you need to know. About me. What? I have a photographic memory, or something close to it. I've always been good at remembering things, numbers, faces, names, conversations. She took a shaky breath. For the past 2 years, I've been memorizing everything. Every client who came through. Every bank account number I saw in paperwork. Every address I overheard. Every phone call I listened to through the vents. Raven stared at her. You're telling me you've got evidence in your head? Not just evidence. I have everything. Emma's eyes were fierce now, the fear replaced by something harder. I know who buys girls and what they pay. I know which politicians are clients and which judges look the other way. I know where the money goes and how they launder, but I've been waiting for 2 years for a chance to get out and tell someone who would actually listen. Why didn't they know? Blade asked. About your memory. Because I played dumb. I pretended to be broken all the way through. Did whatever they said, never talked back, never caused problems. Emma's smile was bitter. They thought I was the perfect victim. Quiet, obedient, forgettable. You're anything but forgettable, Raven said quietly. For a moment their eyes met, and Raven saw the girl Emma had been before this happened. Smart, strong, full of life. And he saw the woman she was becoming, forged in horror, but not destroyed by it. So what's the plan? Snake asked. He'd been quiet until now, but his voice was hard. We can't just roll into town guns blazing. We need intel. Emma's our intel, Raven said, but we also need to see the location. Map it out. Figure out where they're keeping the girls and how to get them out without anyone dying. Without any of the girls dying, Blade corrected. Right. The auction is in 3 days, Emma said. That's when security will be our tightest, but it's also when most of the evidence will be in one place. Client list money transfers, all of it. And your sister, Raven asked, she'll be in the basement. They keep the younger girls separate from the older ones. Different buyers, different... Emma's voice caught. Different purposes. Raven wanted to break something, preferably Marcus Holloway's face. Okay, he said. Here is what we're going to do. We scout Black Hollow tomorrow. Low profile, just getting a sense of the town layout. Emma, you stay here with Blade and Phoenix. The rest of us will go in, look around, come back. I should come with you, Emma protested. I know the town. And if someone recognizes you, we're all screwed. You stay hidden until we're ready to move. Emma looked like she wanted to argue, but Blade put a hand on her shoulder. He's right, honey. You're too valuable to risk right now. Fine, Emma said reluctantly. But you need to know something about the ranch. It's not just a basement. There are tunnels underneath the whole property. Old mining tunnels from when this area was still active. That's how they move girls without anyone seeing. And that's how you'll need to get in. Do you know the layout of the tunnels? Mouse asked. He was the crew's tech guy, skinny and quiet but sharp as a knife. Some of it. I was never in all of them, but I memorized what I could. Emma grabbed a notepad from the nightstand and started sketching. The main entrance to the tunnels is in the barn behind the ranch house. There's a false floor in one of the stalls. From there, the tunnel runs about 200 feet underground before it splits into 3 directions. North goes to the basement where they keep the girls. East goes to what they call the processing room. That's where they brand us and do medical checks. West goes to a storage area where they keep supplies and sometimes hold girls who are being punished. She drew quickly, her hands steady despite everything. When she finished, she had a rough but detailed map of the tunnel system. This is incredible, Mouse said, studying the drawing. How do you remember all this? Because I had to, Emma said simply. If I was going to survive, I had to know every inch of that place. Every exit, every guard rotation, every blind spot. Raven looked at the map, his mind already working through possibilities. What about cameras? Everywhere above ground. But the tunnels don't have any, they're too old, and the traffickers like to keep the operation as invisible as possible. No digital trail. Guards. Usually 2 at night. 1 patrols the house and grounds, 1 stays in the basement monitoring the girls. During the day, there are more, maybe 5 or 6, but they're spread out across the property. And during the auction, Emma's face darkened. During the auction, it's different. They bring in outside security, ex-cops, private military, that kind of thing. Maybe 20 men all armed. The clients want to feel safe while they're shopping. Shopping, Wrench repeated, his voice tight with disgust. They call it shopping. They call it a lot of things, Emma said. The prosperity gala, the summer celebration, the renewal event, anything but what it actually is. Raven folded the map carefully and put it in his jacket pocket. We've got 3 days to plan this. We do it smart, we do it fast, and we don't leave anyone behind. What about after? Phoenix asked. She was the youngest of the crew, barely 30, but she'd seen her share of darkness. Even if we get the girls out, these people have connections. They'll come after us. Let them, Raven said, but they won't get the chance, because we're not just rescuing girls. We're burning the whole operation down. Every name, every client, every piece of evidence Emma has in her head, we're making it public. We're making it so big they can't cover it up. How? Snake asked. We live stream it, Mouse said suddenly. Everyone looked at him. During the auction, we get inside, we live stream everything. Every face, every transaction, every horrifying second of it. Put it on the internet where it can't be buried. Emma's eyes went wide. That could work. If people see it happening in real time, see who's there, see what's really going on. They can't deny it, Blade finished. Can't spin it. Can't make it disappear. Raven nodded slowly. That's the play then. We go in during the auction, we get the girls out, and we expose every single person involved. We make them famous for all the wrong reasons. It's risky, Wrench said. Everything about this is risky. I'm in, Blade said immediately. Me too, said Phoenix. One by one, the crew voiced their agreement. Even Wrench, who usually argued against the crazy plans, just nodded and said, let's do it. Raven looked at Emma. You saved yourself today. Wrote SOS in blood and hoped someone would see it. Now we're going to make sure everyone sees it. Emma's eyes filled with tears again, but this time they looked different. Not defeated, not broken, fierce. Thank you, she whispered. Don't thank me yet, Raven said. We've got 3 days to pull off the impossible. Then we better get started, Emma said. And for the first time in 2 years, Emma Carter smiled. Mine. That night, Raven stood outside the motel smoking a cigarette and staring at the desert sky. The stars were incredible out here, millions of them spread across the darkness like broken glass. Blade came out and stood beside him, not saying anything for a long moment. "You know this could go bad," she finally said. "Yeah, like really bad. We could all end up dead or in prison." "I know. So why are we doing it?" Raven took a long drag on his cigarette, the ember glowing red in the darkness. "You ever heard the phrase, all that evil needs to triumph is for good men to do nothing?" "Yeah. I'm not a good man," Raven said quietly. "I've done things that would keep you up at night. But I'll be damned if I'm going to do nothing. Not about this." Blade nodded. "That girl in there, Emma, she's something special. She's a survivor. She's more than that. She's a witness, a weapon. If we get her out, if we get her story out, we could take down the whole network. Not just Black Hollow, but everyone connected to it. That's the idea. And if we die trying," Raven smiled grimly, "then at least we died doing something that mattered." Blade laughed a short, sharp sound. "You're a crazy son of a bitch, you know that." "So I've been told." They stood there for a while longer, not talking, just existing in the quiet desert night. Inside the motel, Emma was probably trying to sleep, probably failing. Inside his own head, Raven was already running through scenarios, calculating odds, preparing for war. Because that's what this was going to be. War. And Cole Raven Maddox had always been very, very good at war. Dawn broke over the desert like a wound all red and raw and unforgiving. Raven hadn't slept. He'd spent the night planning smoking and trying to ignore the voice in his head that said this was suicide. At 6 a.m., he knocked on Emma's door. Blade answered, already dressed, her hair pulled back tight. "She awake?" "Hasn't slept either," Blade said quietly. "Nightmares." Raven stepped inside. Emma sat on the bed, knees pulled to her chest, staring at nothing. "We're heading out in an hour," he said. "Need anything before we go?" Emma looked up at him, and he saw the exhaustion carved into her face. "Bring her back, please. Whatever happens to me, bring Lily back." "We're bringing both of you back," Raven said. "That's the deal. You don't know what they'll do if they catch you." "Yeah, I do." He sat down across from her. "I've seen evil before, Emma. Different continent, different war, but evil's evil. And the thing about evil is it only wins if you let it scare you into doing nothing." Emma's eyes filled with tears. "I'm so tired of being scared." "Then let us be scared for you today," Blade said, sitting beside her and taking her hand. "You've been fighting alone for 2 years. You're not alone anymore." Emma nodded, wiping her face roughly. "There's something else I need to tell you about the auction." Raven leaned forward. "What?" "They're expecting a special buyer this year. Someone big. Derek mentioned it when he was driving me yesterday. He was nervous about it, kept checking his phone." "Who?" "I don't know, but whoever it is, they're important enough that even Marcus Holloway is scared. Derek said they're bringing in extra security just for this one person." Wrench appeared in the doorway. "That's not good." "No," Raven agreed, "but it might work in our favor. More chaos, more distraction." "Or more guns," Wrench countered. "Glass half full, man." 20 minutes later, 6 of them rode out toward Black Hollow, Raven, Wrench, Snake, Diesel, Rico, and Mouse. Blade and Phoenix stayed behind with Emma, both of them armed and ready, in case Derek or anyone else came looking. The highway cut through the desert like a scar heat already shimmering off the asphalt, even though it wasn't yet 7. They rode hard and fast, engines roaring, and Raven felt the familiar rush of adrenaline that came before every mission. The fear mixed with excitement, mixed with the absolute certainty that everything was about to change. "You think she's telling the truth?" Wrench asked over the comm system in their helmets. "About all of it?" "Yeah," Raven said. "I do." "How do you know?" "Because nobody cuts their own hand open and writes SOS in blood unless they're drowning." They reached Black Hollow at 8:30 a.m. The town looked exactly like Emma had described, small, sun-bleached. The kind of place that time forgot. Main Street had maybe 20 buildings, a diner, a hardware store, a post office, a sheriff's station with 2 patrol cars parked out front. "Looks normal," Diesel muttered. "That's the point," Raven said. They pulled into the diner parking lot, 6 huge bikers on 6 loud motorcycles, and Raven saw curtains twitch in windows across the street. Small towns notice strangers, especially strangers who looked like they could break you in half. Inside the diner, a waitress with tired eyes and a name tag that said Deb looked up from wiping down the counter. "Morning," she said cautiously. "Y'all passing through?" "Just stopping for breakfast," Raven said, flashing his most harmless smile. "Heard this place has the best pancakes in Arizona." "You heard wrong, but the coffee's decent." Deb grabbed menus. "Sit anywhere." They took a booth in the back, and Raven positioned himself where he could see the whole room. Old habits from the Marines: never sit with your back to a door. "6 coffees," Snake said when Deb came over, "and whatever passes for breakfast around here." While they waited, Mouse pulled out his phone and pretended to scroll social media, but Raven knew he was actually mapping the town's cell towers and Wi-Fi networks. Kid was a genius with technology, and if they were going to live stream this thing, they needed solid intel on the infrastructure. "Got 4 towers," Mouse said quietly. "Coverage is decent for the middle of nowhere. I can set up a relay system that'll broadcast even if they try to jam the signal." "Good," Raven said. The door opened and a man in a sheriff's uniform walked in. He was maybe 60 with silver hair and the kind of face that suggested he'd seen everything and been disappointed by most of it. Sheriff Tom Garrett, according to Emma. Garrett's eyes swept the diner, landed on the bikers, and stayed there. "Morning, Tom," Deb called out. "Deb?" Garrett walked over to the counter, but he kept glancing at Raven's table. "Didn't know we had visitors." "They're just passing through," Deb said, pouring him coffee. "Want your usual?" "Yeah." Garrett took his coffee to a table across the room, pulled out a newspaper, and pretended to read while very obviously watching the bikers. "He made us," Wrench muttered. "Of course he made us," Raven said. 6 outsiders in a town this small. We might as well be wearing neon signs. "So what do? We eat breakfast, we leave, and we don't give him any reason to remember us as anything other than bikers passing through." But Raven could feel Garrett's eyes on them the whole time they ate. The sheriff wasn't just curious, he was nervous. After they paid and left, Raven led the crew on a slow cruise through town, making mental notes. The sheriff's station, the town hall, the medical clinic with Dr. Andrew Reeves' name on the door. Everything looked normal, wholesome even, and that made Raven's skin crawl. "Prosperity Ranch is 3 miles north," Mouse said, checking his phone. "Private road gated entrance. Let's take a look." They rode out of town, following a 2-lane road that turned to gravel, then dirt. The land got rougher here, dotted with scrub brush and the occasional dead tree. And then they saw it, a massive wrought iron gate with the words Prosperity Ranch spelled out in elegant script. Beyond the gate, a long driveway wound up toward a sprawling ranch house that looked like something out of a Western movie, or on wood and stone and expensive taste. "Christ," Diesel said, "this is the place." "This is it," Raven said. They didn't stop at the gate, that would be too obvious. But as they rode past, Raven saw security cameras mounted on the posts, and he saw something else that made his blood run cold. A black SUV pulling through the gate, the same SUV from yesterday. Derek Chen was home. "Keep moving," Raven said tightly. "Don't react." They rode another mile down the road before pulling off onto a side trail. "That was him," Wrench said. "The guy from the gas station." "I know. You think he's told them about us?" "Probably, but Raven killed his engine and pulled out the map Emma had drawn. "Which means we don't have 3 days anymore. We've got maybe 1-2 at most before they either move all the girls or come looking for Emma." "So what's the play?" Snake asked. Raven studied the map, his mind racing. "We can't hit them tonight, we're not ready, but we can't wait until the auction either. So we split the difference. We go in tomorrow night before the auction, before they're expecting anything." "That's insane," Wrench said. "You got a better idea." "No, but..." "Then tomorrow night it is." Raven looked at his crew. "Mouse, I need you to set up the live stream equipment today. Snake and Diesel, I need you to find us weapons. Nothing traceable. Rico, you're on vehicles. We'll need a van or a truck big enough to transport multiple people. Wrench, you're with me. We're going back to the motel to get more details from Emma about the tunnel system." "What if the sheriff shows up at the motel?" Rico asked. "Then Blade and Phoenix handle it." They rode back to Black Hollow, and Raven felt eyes on them the whole way. This town knew they didn't belong, and in a place this small, that was dangerous. When they got back to the Desert Rose Motel, Emma was pacing the parking lot like a caged animal. "Thank God," she said when she saw them. I thought something happened. We're fine, Raven said, but we saw Derek. He's back at the ranch. Emma went white. He'll tell them about me, about you. I know, which is why we're moving up the timeline. We hit them tomorrow night. That's too soon. You need more time to plan to... We're out of time, Raven said. They know something's up, which means they'll either move the girls or increase security. We need to go in before either of those things happen. Emma looked like she wanted to argue, but then something shifted in her expression. Acceptance, maybe, or just exhaustion. Okay, she said quietly. Then I'm coming with you. No. Yes. Her voice was steel now. You don't know that facility like I do. You don't know which rooms have deadbolts, which guards are lazy, which tunnel branches are dead ends. You need me there. It's too dangerous. It's my sister, Emma said, and there was something in her voice that made Raven stop arguing. I've been helpless for 2 years. Let me fight back. Raven looked at Blade, who shrugged. She's right. She knows things we don't. Fine, Raven said, but you stay behind us at all times. No heroics, no running off. You're there as a guide, not a soldier. Deal. They spent the rest of the day planning. Emma drew more detailed maps marking guard rotations and security blind spots. Mouse built a makeshift live stream setup using 3 cell phones and a portable router. Snake and Diesel returned with a duffel bag full of handguns, nothing fancy, just reliable firepower. Rico found an old panel van that looked like it should be in a junkyard but ran well enough. At sunset, they all gathered in Raven's room. Tomorrow at 2 a.m. we move, Raven said. Bum. Mouse, you'll be in the van broadcasting everything. The rest of us go in through the tunnels. Emma leads us to the basement where the girls are held. We extract them, we get them to the van, and we get the hell out. What about evidence? Blade asked. I'll handle that, Emma said. I know where Marcus keeps his files. Physical records, hard drives, everything. It's in his office on the 2nd floor of the ranch house. That's too exposed, Wrench said. I don't care, Emma shot back. Those files prove everything. Client names, bank accounts, video recordings. Without them, this is just a rescue. With them, we destroy the whole network. Raven nodded slowly. Okay, Emma and I will split off to get the files while the rest of you handle the extraction. That's a terrible plan, Wrench said. You got a better one. Silence. Didn't think so. That night, Raven couldn't sleep again. He stood outside smoking, watching the stars, and tried not to think about all the ways this could go wrong. Emma came out and stood beside him, wrapped in a blanket that was too big for her. Can't sleep either, she asked. Never could before a mission. This isn't just a mission to you, is it? Raven took a long drag on his cigarette. What do you mean? You're doing this for more than just me and my sister. There's something personal here. He didn't answer for a long time. Then, I had a daughter once. Long time ago. Emma waited. Her name was Sarah. She was 6 years old when she and my ex-wife died in a car accident. Drunk driver ran a red light. Raven's voice was flat, emotionless, because if he let any emotion in, he'd break. That was 18 years ago, but I think about her every day. Wonder what kind of person she would have grown up to be. I'm sorry, Emma said quietly. I'm not telling you this for sympathy. I'm telling you because every time I see a girl your age, I think about Sarah, about how she should be here, should be alone, should be safe. He looked at Emma directly. Your parents filed a missing persons report when you disappeared. Did you know that? Emma's breath caught. They did. I had Mouse look it up. They never stopped looking for you, boss. Posted flyers, hired private investigators, appeared on the news begging for information. Your mom's still active on every missing children forum online. Tears streamed down Emma's face. I thought they'd given up. Derek told me they stopped looking after 6 months. He said nobody cared anymore. He lied, Raven said simply. They never stopped caring. Emma sobbed once, then covered her mouth, trying to stay quiet. Tomorrow we get you back to them, Raven said. You and your sister both. And we make sure Derek and Marcus and everyone else involved never hurts anyone again. What if something goes wrong? Then we improvise. But Emma, I need you to promise me something. What? If it goes bad, if we're compromised, you run. You get out and you go straight to the FBI field office in Phoenix. You tell them everything you know. Promise me. Emma hesitated, then nodded. I promise. Good. They stood there in silence for a while, and Raven finished his cigarette. You know what the worst part is? Emma said suddenly. The worst part isn't what they did to us. It's how normal they all seemed. Marcus would smile at us and call us sweethearts. The doctor would tell us to stay healthy while he examined us like livestock. The sheriff would wave at us in the tunnels like he was just doing his job. They were monsters, but they looked like neighbors. That's always how it works, Raven said. Evil doesn't walk around with horns and a pitchfork. It wears a suit and tie. It goes to church on Sunday. It shakes your hand and looks you in the eye while it destroys you. How do you fight something like that? Same way you fight anything. You hit it hard, you hit it fast, and you don't stop until it's dead. The next day crawled by. Everyone was tense, checking weapons, reviewing the plan, trying to stay busy. Emma barely spoke, just stared at her sister's picture on her phone, a photo from before when Lily was 12 and smiling, and the world hadn't shown her its ugliest face yet. At 1 a.m., they loaded into the vehicles. Raven, Emma, Blade, Wrench, Snake, and Diesel would go in on the motorcycles, then approach the ranch on foot. Mouse would follow in the van with Phoenix and Rico ready to extract the girls once they were free. The ride to Black Hollow was silent engines cutting through the night like knives. They parked 2 miles from the ranch and hiked the rest of the way using night vision goggles Mouse had acquired from God knows where. The land was rough, but they moved quietly, years of training, making them ghosts. When they reached the ranch perimeter, Raven held up a fist and everyone stopped. The main house was dark except for a few lights on the ground floor. The barn sat 200 feet away, looking innocent and empty. That's where the tunnel entrance is, Emma whispered. In the barn. Guards, Raven asked. Usually one outside, one in the basement. I see the outside one, Snake said, pointing to a figure near the house smoking a cigarette. Should I take him? Not yet. We need to get inside first. They crept toward the barn, moving from shadow to shadow. Emma led them to a side door that she said was usually unlocked, and she was right. It opened with barely a sound. Inside the barn smelled like hay and motor oil. Emma pointed to a stall in the far corner. There, she said. They moved quietly. In the stall beneath moldy hay was a wooden panel. Wrench lifted it, revealing a ladder descending into darkness. Jesus, Blade muttered. This is really happening. No backing out now, Raven said. Emma, you're in the middle of the group. Blade takes point. I've got rear. Everyone else between. Weapons ready, but don't fire unless absolutely necessary. We want to do this quiet. One by one, they descended into the tunnel. The air down here was cool and stale, and Raven's flashlight beam cut through absolute darkness. The tunnel was wider than he expected, maybe 6 feet across, carved out of rock and reinforced with old timber beams that looked like they'd been here since the mining days. Emma pointed left. That way leads to the basement, about 300 feet. They moved through the darkness, and Raven felt like he was descending into hell itself. Every step took them deeper, closer to the heart of this nightmare. Then Blade held up her hand. Voices ahead. Everyone froze. 2 men talking casually about a football game. Their voices echoed off the stone walls. Raven moved forward slowly, peering around a corner. The tunnel opened into a small room with 2 doors. One metal, one wood. 2 guards sat at a folding table playing cards. I can take them both, Blade whispered. Do it, Raven said. Blade moved like liquid death, closing the distance before either guard could react. 2 quick strikes, throat and temple, and both men dropped without making a sound. Damn, Wrench said. Remind me not to piss you off. The metal door had an electronic lock. Emma punched in a code 8347, and it clicked open. Beyond was another corridor, narrower, with multiple doors on each side. And behind those doors, crying. Quiet, hopeless crying. They're here, Emma said, her voice breaking. All of them. Raven felt rage surge through him, hot and brutal. Get them out, all of them, now. Blade started opening doors, and Raven saw what Emma had lived through. Girls, some barely teenagers, some in their 20s, all of them thin, bruised, terrified. They flinched when the doors opened, expecting pain. We're not here to hurt you, Blade said gently. We're getting you out. The girls stared at her like she was speaking another language. Hope apparently was a foreign concept down here. Lily, Emma pushed past Raven, running to the last door on the left. She yanked it open and screamed her sister's name. A girl emerged, 14 years old, with Emma's same blonde hair and blue eyes, but hollowed out by 6 months of hell. She looked at Emma like she was seeing a ghost. Emmy, Lily whispered. It's me, baby. I'm here. I'm getting you out. The sisters crashed into each other, both sobbing, and Raven had to look away because the emotion was too raw, too real. "We need to move," Snake said urgently. "Now." "How many?" Raven asked. Blade did a quick count. 18 girls. "Can they all walk?" "Some of them barely," Blade said grimly. "They're malnourished, weak. Then we carry whoever can't walk, but everyone leaves. Nobody gets left behind." They started moving girls toward the tunnel, and Raven could see the disbelief on their faces. They'd been told for so long that nobody was coming that they couldn't process rescue. That's when the alarm went off. A shrieking siren that split the air like a knife, and red emergency lights started flashing in the ceiling. "Shit," Wrench yelled. "They know." "Move," Raven roared. "Everybody move now." The girls started running, stumbling, some of them crying in panic. Emma grabbed Lily's hand and pulled her toward the tunnel entrance. Behind them, Raven heard doors slamming open and men shouting, guards flooding into the basement, weapons drawn. "Go! Go, go!" Blade screamed, firing shots back down the corridor to cover their retreat. They reached the tunnel and started climbing, but there were too many people and not enough space. Girls were screaming, climbing over each other in panic. "One at a time," Raven shouted. One at a... Gunfire erupted behind them, bullets ricocheting off stone walls. Snake returned fire, his face grim. "Raven, we're pinned," he yelled. "Keep shooting. Buy us time." More girls climbed out. 10, 12, 15. Then Raven saw Emma stop halfway up the ladder. "The files," she said. "I need to get the files." "Emma, no." But she was already climbing back down, pushing past him. "Emma." She ran back into the tunnel, heading toward the stairs that led up to the main house. "God damn it." Raven looked at Blade. "Get everyone out. I'm going after her." Raven. "Get them out." He took off running after Emma, his flashlight beam bouncing wildly off the walls. He could hear gunfire behind him, screams, chaos. He found Emma at the base of a stone staircase prying open a hidden door. "What the hell are you doing?" he shouted. "I told you the files are upstairs. Without them, this was all for nothing. Those girls are alive because of you. That's not nothing." "It's not enough." Emma's eyes were wild. "These men will get away. If we don't have proof, they'll rebuild somewhere else, take more girls, destroy more lives. I can't let that happen." Before Raven could stop her, she was running up the stairs. "God damn it, Emma." He followed her, and they emerged into the main ranch house. It was chaos up here, too. More guards running around, someone shouting orders on a radio. Emma led him to a large office with mahogany furniture and expensive art on the walls. She went straight to a safe behind a painting. "I know the combination," she said, her hands shaking as she spun the dial. "I watched Marcus open it 100 times. The safe clicked open and Emma pulled out 3 hard drives and a thick stack of files. "Got them," she said triumphantly. That's when Marcus Holloway walked into the room, a pistol in his hand. "Hello, Emma," he said calmly. "I've been looking for you." Marcus Holloway looked exactly like Emma had described. Silver hair, expensive suit, even at 2 in the morning. The kind of face that belonged on charity posters and Chamber of Commerce brochures. He was smiling. "I have to admire your persistence," Marcus said, keeping the gun trained on Emma. "Most girls break completely. But you never really broke, did you?" "Go to hell," Emma said. "Eventually, I'm sure." Marcus's eyes shifted to Raven. "And you must be the knight in shining armor. Or should I say shining leather? I heard about the incident at the gas station." Derek was quite upset. "Where is Derek?" Raven asked, his hand moving slowly toward his own weapon. "Dead, actually. I don't tolerate failure." Marcus said it like he was discussing the weather. "Now I'll give you one chance. Put down the gun, give me those files, and walk away. You can even take the girls. I'll write it off as a business loss." "You really think we're that stupid?" Raven said. "I think you're smart enough to realize you're surrounded. I have 20 men in this house right now. You have, what, 5, 6? The math doesn't work in your favor." "Math was never my strong suit," Raven said, and shot Marcus in the shoulder. Marcus went down, screaming, the gun flying from his hand. Emma grabbed the files and ran for the door, but 3 guards burst in, weapons raised. "Down on the ground," one of them shouted. Raven shot the first guard in the leg, then threw himself behind Marcus's desk as bullets tore through the office. Wood splinters exploded around him, and he heard Emma scream. "Emma," he yelled, "I'm okay." She'd made it into the hallway, somehow still clutching the files. Raven fired twice more, dropping another guard, then grabbed Marcus by his expensive suit collar and dragged him up as a human shield. "Tell them to back off, or I put the next bullet in your head," Raven shouted. Marcus was gasping in pain, blood soaking through his shirt. "Stand down, stand down!" The remaining guard hesitated, and that hesitation cost him. Raven shot him in the chest and shoved Marcus away, running after Emma. The hallway was chaos. More guards were coming from both directions, and Raven could hear the firefight continuing in the basement tunnels. "This way!" Emma yanked open a door and pulled him into what looked like a library. She slammed the door and shoved a heavy bookcase in front of it. "That won't hold them long," Raven said, checking his magazine. 3 rounds left. "There's a back staircase," Emma said, breathing hard. "For staff. It leads down to the kitchen." "Then move." They ran through the library into a narrow hallway that smelled like old books and expensive cologne. Behind them, Raven heard the bookcase crash over and boots pounding after them. Emma hit the staircase running, taking the steps 2 at a time. Raven followed, his lungs burning. They burst into the kitchen just as 2 more guards came through the opposite door. Emma threw the files at one guard's face, momentarily blinding him. Raven used the distraction to close the distance, driving his elbow into the man's throat. The guard went down, choking. The second guard was faster, getting his weapon up, but Emma grabbed a cast-iron skillet from the stove and swung it like a baseball bat. The impact made a sound like a church bell, and the guard dropped like a stone. "Jesus Christ," Raven said, staring at her. 2 years, Emma said grimly, picking up the files. 2 years of thinking about what I'd do if I got the chance. They ran through a mudroom and out the back door into the night. The barn was 100 feet away, lit up like Christmas, with floodlights and men with guns. "We're not getting through that," Raven said. "The west tunnel," Emma said. "The one that leads to storage. There's an exit there that comes out near the property line." "Show me." They circled around the barn, staying low, moving through shadows. Raven could hear screaming from inside, whether from guards or rescuers, he couldn't tell. He just prayed his crew was getting those girls out. Emma led him to what looked like an old storm cellar door, half hidden by overgrown weeds. She pulled it open, and they descended into darkness again. This tunnel was rougher than the main one, barely tall enough to stand up in. They moved fast, Emma's memory guiding them through turns and intersections that all looked the same to Raven. "How much further?" he asked. "Maybe 200 feet. The exit is—" A flashlight beam hit them from behind. "Freeze!" Sheriff Tom Garrett stood 30 feet back, his service weapon drawn, his face red with fury. "Well, well," Garrett said. "The biker and the runaway. You two have caused me one hell of a night." "It's about to get worse," Raven said. "I don't think so. See, you're going to drop those files and that gun, and then you're going to come quietly. Or I'm going to shoot you both and tell everyone you were trespassers who attacked me." "Except you won't," Emma said, her voice steady despite the gun pointed at her. "Because I know about Phoenix." Garrett's face changed. "What?" "Phoenix, Arizona. The house on Maple Street. The 3 girls you keep there. Ages 13, 14, and 16. You visit them every Thursday night." The sheriff's face went white. "How do you—" "I told you," Emma said. "I remember everything. Names, faces, addresses, including yours, including what you do, including the video footage stored on the 4th hard drive in Marcus's safe. You're lying." "Am I the youngest girl's name is Maria. You took her from a Walmart parking lot 6 months ago. She has a birthmark on her left shoulder, shaped like a butterfly. Want me to keep going?" Garrett's hand was shaking now. "You little bitch." "Yeah," Emma said. "I am. And when this is over, everyone's going to know what you are too." The sheriff's face twisted with rage. He raised his gun finger, tightening on the trigger. Raven shot him twice in the chest. Garrett dropped the flashlight, rolling away. And suddenly they were in darkness except for the dim beam bouncing off the tunnel walls. "Oh, God," Emma said, her voice small. "Yeah," Raven said. "He is. I've never seen someone die before. I mean, not right in front of me." "Then you're luckier than most." Raven grabbed her arm gently. "Come on, we need to move." They ran the rest of the way, and the tunnel opened into a small storage room filled with crates and equipment. Emma pushed through a metal door, and they emerged into the night air behind a line of pine trees. "Where are we?" Raven asked. "North end of the property. The road's about half a mile that way." They started running. Raven's phone buzzed in his pocket, and he pulled it out while moving. A text from Blade. "We're out. All girls accounted for. Where are you?" He texted back, "Coming, north side. Have the van ready." Another text came in, this time from Mouse. "Holy shit, this is everywhere." "What?" Raven called Mouse, nearly tripping over a root. "The live stream," Mouse said, his voice excited and terrified at once. "It went viral. Like really viral. We've got 3 million people watching right now. CNN is calling. The FBI is on their way. Raven, we did it. We actually did it." "The girls," Raven demanded. "Safe. All of them. Phoenix is driving them to the hospital in Kingman. The staff there is already freaking out, preparing for intake. And Lily, she's with Emma's sister. Won't let go of her." Raven felt something loosen in his chest, something that had been tight since the moment he had seen Emma write SOS in blood. "We're almost to the road," he said. "Send someone to pick us up." "Already on it. Rico's coming." 10 minutes later, headlights appeared and Rico's van pulled up. Emma and Raven threw themselves into the back and Rico floored it. "You got the files?" Rico asked, looking in the rearview mirror. Emma held them up. "Everything. Client lists, bank records, video evidence, all of it. Mouse is uploading everything to multiple servers as we speak," Rico said. "Even if they try to destroy the hard drives, the information's already out there." They drove through the night, and Raven watched Emma finally relax, her body sagging with exhaustion and relief. She was still clutching the files like they might disappear if she let go. "You did good," Raven said quietly. "Real good." "We both did," Emma said, "but it's not over yet." She was right. As they approached the highway, they saw a roadblock up ahead, police cars' lights flashing. "Shit," Rico said. "What do we do?" "We stop," Raven said, "and we tell them everything." But as they got closer, Raven saw these weren't local cops. These were federal vehicles. "FBI, an agent in a windbreaker," flagged them down. Rico stopped and the agent approached the window, flashlight in hand. "Cole Maddox," the agent asked. "That's me." "Agent Sarah Chen, FBI. We've been watching the live stream. We need statements from all of you, and we need those files." Emma handed them over immediately. "There's more. 3 hard drives still at the ranch. Marcus Holloway's office safe. We have teams securing the property now," Chen said. "We've also got agents en route to multiple locations across 3 states based on information from the stream. This is the biggest trafficking bust in Bureau history." "The girls," Raven asked. "Safe. All 18 of them plus your crew are being processed at Kingman Regional. Medical evaluations, interviews, the works." Chen looked at Emma. "You're Emma Carter?" "Yes." "Your parents have been notified. They're on their way to Kingman right now." Emma started crying, real crying this time, not the silent tears from before, but deep, gasping sobs of relief and joy, and 2 years of held-back emotion finally breaking free. "It's over," she said between sobs. "It's really over." "Not quite," Agent Chen said. "We're going to need extensive statements from both of you. Days worth probably. You're going to have to testify, identify people, walk us through everything." "I can do that," Emma said, wiping her face. "I can do all of it. I remember everything." "So I've heard." They drove to Kingman in a convoy of federal vehicles, the desert giving way to highway lights and civilization. Raven kept waiting for something else to go wrong, for another ambush or complication, but nothing came. They just drove and the sun started rising over the mountains, and it felt like the world was starting over. At the hospital, it was controlled chaos. News vans were already setting up outside. Federal agents swarmed the building, and in the middle of it all, Raven saw his crew gathered in the waiting room, looking tired and bruised, but alive. "Boss," Wrench called out, limping over. "Took you long enough." "You hurt." "Took a round in the leg. Blade's got a concussion. Snake's got 3 broken ribs. But we're all breathing and all the girls are safe, so I'd call that a win." Raven pulled him into a rough hug. "Hell of a job, brother. Couldn't let you have all the glory." Emma was looking around frantically. "Where's Lily?" "Room 304, Blade said, appearing with a bandage on her head. "She won't talk to anyone but you." Emma ran for the elevators and Raven followed at a distance, giving her space but making sure she got there safely. Room 304 was quiet. Lily sat on the hospital bed, knees drawn up, staring at nothing. She looked so small, so broken, and Raven felt that familiar rage kindle in his chest again. Lily, Emma said softly from the doorway. Lily looked up and her face crumpled. Emmy. The sisters held each other and cried, and Raven stood guard outside the door, making sure nobody disturbed them. An hour later, a doctor came by to check on Lily, then a victim advocate, then Agent Chen with a gentle-voiced interviewer who explained the process ahead. Through it all, Emma never left her sister's side. Around noon, a commotion in the hallway made Raven look up. A man and woman were running toward him, both crying, both looking like they hadn't slept in years. "Where is she?" the woman demanded. "Where's my daughter?" Raven pointed to the room. "Both of them are in there." The woman didn't wait. She burst through the door, and Raven heard her scream Emma's name. The man followed, and then there was crying and talking and more crying. Raven stepped away to give them privacy. He found his crew in the cafeteria drinking terrible coffee and looking like they'd fought a war, which he supposed they had. "What happens now?" Phoenix asked. "FBI takes over," Raven said. "They'll investigate, arrest everyone involved, build cases. It'll take months, maybe years. And us, we cooperate, we testify, and then we get the hell out of Arizona before someone tries to retaliate." "Think they will?" Snake asked. "Oh, they'll try," Raven said. "But they're going to be too busy dealing with the FBI and the media shitstorm that's coming. 3 million people watched us raid that ranch. You can't cover that up." Mouse walked over his laptop under his arm. "Make that 15 million now. It's on every news channel. Twitter's losing its mind. The hashtag Black Hollow Bust is trending worldwide." "Jesus," Wrench said. "And it gets better," Mouse continued. "Some of the clients from Emma's files, we're talking senators, judges, CEOs, major players. The FBI is going to be making arrests for months." "Good," Blade said viciously. "I hope every single one of them rots." They sat there for a while, too tired to move, too wired to rest. Raven kept replaying the night in his head, looking for mistakes, for moments where they could have lost people. But they hadn't. Against all odds, they'd pulled it off. Emma found him around 3 p.m. She looked exhausted, but lighter somehow, like a weight had been lifted. "They want to talk to you," she said. "My parents." Raven followed her back to Lily's room. Mr. and Mrs. Carter stood as he entered, and before he could say anything, Mrs. Carter wrapped him in a hug. "Thank you," she sobbed into his chest. "Thank you for bringing my babies back." "It wasn't just me," Raven said awkwardly, not used to gratitude. "My crew. I know, I want to thank all of them. But Emma said you were the one who believed her, who saw her message and didn't look away. Anyone would have done the same." "No," Mr. Carter said, his voice thick with emotion. "They wouldn't. Do you know how many people saw Emma before you did? At that gas station, at rest stops, in parking lots? She tried to signal for help dozens of times over 2 years. Nobody stopped. Nobody helped. You did." Raven didn't know what to say to that. "The FBI says you saved 18 girls tonight," Mrs. Carter continued. 18 families get their daughters back because of you. "Because of Emma," Raven corrected. "She's the one who survived. She's the one who remembered everything. She's the one who fought back." Emma was crying again, but she was smiling too. "I couldn't have done it without you." "Yeah, you could have, Raven said. "Eventually, you're stronger than you think." Agent Chen appeared in the doorway. "Mr. Maddox, we need your statement now." "Go," Emma said. "I'll be here." The debriefing took 6 hours. Raven told them everything from the moment he saw Emma at the gas station to the shootout in Marcus Holloway's office. Other agents interviewed his crew, corroborating details, building a timeline. "Marcus Holloway is alive," Chen told him. "He's in surgery right now, but he'll make it. He's already trying to cut a deal." "Don't give him one," Raven said. "We won't. The evidence is too strong. Between Emma's testimony, the hard drives, and the live stream footage, we've got them dead to rights." "What about the sheriff?" "Tom Garrett is dead. You shot him twice in the chest in the tunnel, self-defense according to Emma's statement. The shooting will be reviewed, but given the circumstances, I doubt you'll face charges." Raven nodded. He'd killed before in Iraq and Afghanistan, in dark places he didn't like to think about. One more body on his conscience wasn't going to keep him up at night, especially not Garrett's. "We found the house in Phoenix," Chen continued, "the one Emma mentioned. 3 girls, just like she said. We've got Garrett's DNA all over the place. He would have gone to prison for life, even if you hadn't shot him." "Good. You did the right thing tonight, Mr. Maddox. Legally speaking, it was a mess. Vigilante justice, breaking and entering assault with a deadly weapon. But morally, you saved lives, and sometimes that's worth the legal headache. You charging me? Not today, maybe not ever, depending on how the investigation shakes out. But you and your crew should stick around Arizona for a few weeks. We'll need more interviews as we build the cases. We'll be here. Chen stood to leave, then paused. For what it's worth, I've been with the Bureau for 15 years. I've seen a lot of bad things and stopped some of them. But I've never seen anything like what you did tonight. You're either the bravest person I've ever met or the craziest. Probably both, Raven said. When he got back to the waiting room, it was evening. His crew was still there, sprawled across chairs, looking half dead. FBI says we're free to go, Raven told them. For now, but we need to stay in state for a while. Where? Blade asked. I saw a decent motel about 10 miles from here. We'll hole up there, recover, figure out next steps. And then we ride, Raven said, like we always do. But he knew it wouldn't be that simple. This night had changed all of them. You didn't walk through hell and come out the same person. Emma found him in the parking lot later that night. The news vans were still there, but the crowd had thinned. They're keeping Lily in the hospital for a few more days, she said. Observation therapy, that kind of thing. My parents are staying with her. What about you? I'm supposed to stay too, but I can't be in there right now. It's too much, too many people asking questions, poking at wounds. She looked at him. Can I come with you just for tonight? I'll go back tomorrow, I promise. Raven knew it was a bad idea for about 17 different reasons, but he also knew what it felt like to need space after trauma, to need quiet and darkness and time to process. Yeah, he said, you can come. They drove to the motel in Rico's van, Emma silent beside him. When they got there, Raven got her a room next to his. You need anything, you knock, he said. Food, water, someone to talk to, whatever. Thank you, Emma said quietly, for everything. Get some sleep. You've earned it. But he knew she wouldn't sleep. Neither would he. They were both too wound up, too full of adrenaline and fear and relief all mixed together. Around midnight, there was a knock on his door. Emma stood there in borrowed hospital scrubs, tears streaming down her face. I can't stop shaking, she said. Every time I close my eyes, I'm back there. In the basement. In the dark. And I know it's over. I know I'm safe, but my body won't believe it. That's normal, Raven said. After what you went through, that's completely normal. How do you make it stop? You don't. Not right away. It takes time, therapy, healing, but it does get better. I promise. Emma wiped her face. Can I just sit with you? I don't want to be alone. Raven let her in and they sat on opposite sides of the room, not talking, just existing in shared space. Eventually, Emma fell asleep in the chair, her body finally giving in to exhaustion. Raven covered her with a blanket and sat guard the way he'd done for his squad in Iraq, the way he'd done for his daughter all those years ago. Outside, the desert night stretched on forever, full of stars and silence, and the promise of a new day coming. Morning came too fast and too bright. Raven woke to his phone vibrating nonstop on the nightstand. 17 missed calls, 43 text messages, and his voicemail was full. Emma was still asleep in the chair, her face peaceful for the first time since he'd met her. He stepped outside, quietly closing the door behind him. The first call he returned was to Agent Chen. We've got a problem, she said without preamble. A big one. What kind of problems? The kind where someone posted $1 million bounty on you and your crew. It went up on the dark web 4 hours ago. Every mercenary and wannabe tough guy in the Southwest is probably looking for you right now. Raven's blood went cold. Who posted it? We don't know yet. The transaction was routed through multiple offshore accounts. But whoever it is has serious money and serious connections. Chen paused. You need to disappear. Take your crew and get somewhere safe until we can provide protection. What about Emma and the other girls? They're in federal custody now. We've moved them to a secure location. They're safe. Where? I can't tell you that, protocol, but I can tell you they're heavily guarded and nobody's getting to them. Does Emma know? She's being informed this morning. Her parents are with her. Raven felt a strange mix of relief and loss. He'd known Emma for less than 3 days, but in that time, she'd become something important. A mission, a purpose. And now she was gone, protected by people who were actually qualified to protect her. What do I do? He asked. Run, Chen said simply, and don't stop until we catch whoever put the bounty up. He hung up and found Blade smoking a cigarette by the vending machines. You hear? She asked. Yeah, $1 million on our heads? Wrench is freaking out. Snake's already packing. Phoenix wants to split up, thinks we're safer separated. Phoenix is wrong, Raven said. We stay together. We're harder to kill that way. Where do we go north? Maybe Montana. Somewhere remote where we can see trouble coming. Blade took a long drag. This was supposed to be the part where we ride off into the sunset, right? The happy ending. Happy endings are for fairy tales, Raven said. We live in the real world. The real world sucks. Yeah, but we made it suck a little less for 18 girls. Blade smiled grimly. There is that. They gathered the crew in Raven's room. Everyone looked rough, bruised, bandaged, running on fumes and coffee. Here's the situation, Raven said. There's a price on our heads. Big money, which means every lowlife with a gun is going to be looking for us. How big? Mouse asked. $1 million. Wrench whistled. Damn, I'm almost flattered. Don't be. It means whoever posted it wants us dead bad enough to pay for it. Raven looked at each of them. I'm not going to lie, this is dangerous. More dangerous than last night. And if anyone wants out, now's the time. No judgment. Nobody moved. We're in this together, Snake said, all the way. Then we ride north. Stay off major highways, avoid cities, move fast, and stay armed. We find a place to hole up and wait for the FBI to handle this. And if they can't, Phoenix asked, then we handle it ourselves. They packed quickly, loading the motorcycles with weapons and supplies. Raven left cash for the motel room and a burner phone number for Agent Chen to reach him. As they prepared to leave, a news van pulled into the parking lot. Shit, Mouse said. How'd they find us? Doesn't matter. Let's move. But the reporter was already out of the van, camera crew following her, and she was running toward them. Mr. Maddox, can we get a statement about last night? No comment, Raven said, swinging onto his bike. The public is calling you a hero. I'm not a hero. I'm just someone who didn't look away. But you saved 18 girls. You exposed a trafficking ring that operated for years. Don't you think? I think those girls are the heroes, Raven said, his voice hard. They survived hell. They endured things nobody should ever have to endure. And they're still here, still fighting, still alive. That's heroism. What I did was just basic human decency. The reporter blinked, processing. So you're saying anyone would have done the same? I'm saying anyone should have done the same, but they didn't. And that's the real tragedy. He started his engine and the roar drowned out any follow-up questions. The crew fell in behind him and they rode out of the parking lot in formation, leaving the news crew filming their departure. They made it 50 miles before the first attack. It happened on a lonely stretch of highway cutting through the desert. A pickup truck came up fast behind them, and Raven saw the gun barrel extending from the passenger window before he heard the shot. Contact, he screamed into the comm. Evasive action. The crew scattered bikes, weaving across lanes as bullets chewed up the asphalt. Raven drew his sidearm while driving, one-handed, twisted in his seat, and fired back at the truck. His first shot took out the passenger side mirror. His second spiderwebbed the windshield. Get off the highway, Snake yelled. Raven yanked his handlebars right, jumping the shoulder and tearing across open desert. The others followed, bikes kicking up plumes of dust. The pickup tried to follow, but got bogged down in the sand. They didn't stop until they'd put 5 miles between themselves and the road. Everybody okay? Raven asked, breathing hard. I'm hit, Phoenix said quietly. Everyone turned. Blood was spreading across her left arm, soaking through her leather jacket. How bad? Blade asked, already moving toward her. Through and through, I think. Hurts like hell, but nothing feels broken. Blade examined the wound quickly, efficiently. Clean entry and exit. You're lucky, but we need to get you stitched up. Can't go to a hospital, Phoenix said. They'll report it. I know a guy, Rico said. About 30 miles east. Runs a veterinary clinic. He owes me a favor. A vet, Phoenix said. He was a combat medic in Afghanistan. Trust me, he can handle a bullet wound. They rode carefully now, staying off roads, using GPS to navigate through backcountry. Every vehicle they saw became a potential threat. Every person a possible enemy. The veterinary clinic was a small building attached to a house in the middle of nowhere. Rico knocked, and a man in his 50s answered, one arm missing below the elbow. Rico, the man said, didn't expect to see you again. Doc, I need a favor. The man Doc saw Phoenix bleeding and didn't ask questions. He just stepped aside and let them in. The clinic smelled like antiseptic and dog food. Doc cleared an exam table and gestured for Phoenix to lie down. This is gonna hurt, he said, prepping a needle. I've got local anesthetic, but it's meant for animals, so it might not work perfectly on humans. Just do it, Phoenix said through gritted teeth. Doc worked quickly, cleaning the wound, stitching entry and exit, wrapping it in clean bandages. Phoenix bit down on a leather strap and didn't scream, but Raven saw tears streaming down her face. You're going to be fine, Doc said when he finished. Keep it clean, change the bandages twice a day, and if you see any signs of infection, get to a real hospital. Thank you, Phoenix said hoarsely. Don't thank me yet. You've got a story to tell me, Rico. Last I checked, bullet wounds don't happen by accident. Rico told him a condensed version, the girls, the ranch, the rescue, the bounty. Doc listened without interrupting, his face getting darker with each detail. Jesus Christ, he said when Rico finished. You kicked a hornet's nest. We saved 18 girls, Blade said defensively. I know, I'm not criticizing. Hell, I'm impressed. But you understand what you're up against now, right? These people, the ones who ran that trafficking ring, they're connected. They have money and power and reach. $1 million bounty is just the start. So what do we do, Mouse asked. You disappear. Change your names, change your faces, change your lives, because they're not going to stop coming. We're not changing anything, Raven said quietly. We didn't do anything wrong. Doesn't matter. Wrong and right don't mean much when you're dead. Then we'll stay alive, Raven said, and we'll keep fighting until everyone involved is in prison or in the ground. Doc looked at him for a long moment, then nodded slowly. You remind me of someone I served with. Good man, brave, stupidly brave. He's dead now. I'm not him. Maybe not, but the road you're on, it ends the same way. They stayed at the clinic for 2 hours, letting Phoenix rest and making plans. Doc gave them antibiotics, painkillers, and additional first aid supplies. There's a hunting cabin about 80 miles north, he said. Belongs to a friend who died last year. Nobody's used it in months. It's remote, off the grid, stocked with supplies. You could hide there for a while. Why are you helping us? Raven asked. Because I spent 20 years serving my country, and when I came home with one arm and a head full of nightmares, nobody helped me. Nobody gave a shit. I was just another broken veteran. Doc's jaw tightened. But you saw a girl in trouble and you didn't walk away. You did something. And in my book, that counts for a lot. He gave them the coordinates to the cabin and a key. One more thing, Doc said as they prepared to leave. The news is running your story nonstop. You're famous, and that makes you vulnerable. People know your faces now. Great, Wrench muttered, but it also gives you protection. You're too visible to kill Wiley. They try something public, everyone will know who did it. Unless they make it look like an accident, Snake said. Then don't have any accidents. They rode out as the sun began to set, heading north toward the mountains. The temperature dropped as they climbed in elevation, and Raven was glad for his leather jacket. The hunting cabin was exactly where Doc said it would be, a small structure tucked into a pine forest, accessible only by a dirt road that was barely more than a trail. Inside it was basic but functional. 2 bedrooms, a kitchen with a propane stove, a fireplace, and mercifully running water from a well. It's not the Ritz, Blade said. Money's, but it'll work. They secured the perimeter, setting up motion sensors Mouse had brought and taking shifts on watch. Raven took first watch, sitting on the porch with a rifle across his knees and watching the dark forest. His phone buzzed, a text from an unknown number. This is Emma. Agent Chen gave me your number. Are you okay? Raven smiled despite everything. The kid was worried about him when she should be focused on her own recovery. He texted back. We're safe. How are you and Lily? Better, we're in a safe house somewhere. Can't tell you where. My parents are here. Lily's talking to a therapist. I start intensive therapy tomorrow. Good. You need it. I know, but I wanted to thank you again. For everything. You don't owe me thanks. Yes, I do. You gave me my life back. You gave Lily her life back. You gave all of us a chance to heal. Raven didn't know how to respond to that. He'd been thanked before by fellow Marines, by civilians he'd protected overseas, but it never got easier. Focus on getting better, he texted finally. That's the best way to thank me. I will. And Raven, be careful. The people you took down, they're not going to forgive this. I know. Promise me you'll survive. Promise me this doesn't end with you dead in some ditch. I promise, me. He didn't know if it was a promise he could keep, but Emma needed to hear it. Another text came through, this one from Agent Chen. 2 arrests made tonight. Marcus Holloway's attorney and his accountant. Both were trying to flee the country. We've frozen over $40 million in assets tied to the trafficking operation. This is turning into something bigger than Black Hollow. We're finding connections to rings in Nevada, California, Texas, and New Mexico. You opened a door we didn't even know existed. How long until you catch whoever posted the bounty? Raven typed back. Working on it. These things take time. Meanwhile, stay hidden. Doing our best. The night passed slowly. Wrench relieved Raven at 2 a.m. and Raven collapsed into a sleeping bag, his body finally demanding rest. He dreamed about Emma writing SOS in blood. But in the dream, he drove past without stopping, and when he looked in his rearview mirror, she was being dragged away, screaming his name. He woke with a start, sweating despite the cold mountain air. The next 3 days passed in tense monotony. They stayed inside during daylight, only going out at night for perimeter checks. Mouse monitored the news on his laptop, keeping them updated on the investigation. The story had grown massive. International news was covering it. Politicians were making statements. A congressional committee had been formed to investigate trafficking networks nationwide. You're trending on Twitter again, Mouse said on day 3. #Raven saves lives. I hate social media, Raven muttered. Yeah, well, social media loves you. They're calling you the highway vigilante. Someone made a documentary already, well, a YouTube video, but still. Great, just what I need. On day 4, Agent Chen called. We got him, she said, and Raven heard the satisfaction in her voice. The person who posted the bounty. Who? Vincent Holloway, Marcus's younger brother, runs a hedge fund in New York. Turns out he was a silent partner in the trafficking operation. Had been for years. We arrested him 2 hours ago trying to board a private jet to the Caymans. Is the bounty gone? Officially, yes. We seized his accounts and got the posting taken down. But unoff, some people already saw it and might not have gotten the memo. You're not completely safe yet. When will we be? When everyone involved is behind bars. We're working on it, but these things take time. We're talking about a network that spans multiple states and involves dozens of powerful people. They're lawyered up and fighting back hard. What about the girls? They're all safe, getting treatment counseling, working with victim advocates. Emma's been incredibly helpful. Her testimony is rock solid, and her memory is as good as she claimed. We're building cases against 43 individuals based on her information alone. And Lily, quiet, traumatized, but she's with her family and she's got the best help money can buy, well, that the government can provide anyway. She'll recover. It'll take time, but she'll get there. Good. One more thing. The media wants to interview you. CNN, NBC, everyone. They're offering money. Tell them no. You sure some of these offers are substantial? 6 figures substantial. I don't want their money, and I don't want to be on TV talking about what happened. The story isn't about me. It's about the survivors. Chen was quiet for a moment. You're a better man than most Maddox. No, I'm not. I'm just a guy who couldn't drive past a girl in trouble. After he hung up, Blade came out onto the porch where he was standing. That the FBI, she asked. Yeah, they caught the guy who posted the bounty, Marcus's brother. So we're safe. Safer, not safe. When do we move you? Soon, I'm tired of hiding. Where will we go? Raven looked out at the mountains, the endless forests, the big sky overhead. Wherever the road takes us, like always. Think we can ever go back to how things were, just riding, no responsibilities, no targets on our backs? No, Raven said honestly. I think we changed the minute Emma wrote SOS on my bike. We became something different. What did we become? I don't know yet, but it's not something I regret. Blade smiled. Me neither. That night, Emma called instead of texting. Her voice sounded stronger, more centered. I wanted to tell you something, she said. I testified today. Full deposition, everything I remembered. It took 9 hours. How'd it go? Hard, really hard, but also freeing, getting it all out, having people actually listen and believe me. For 2 years, I felt invisible, like I didn't matter. Today, I mattered. You always mattered, Emma. I know that now, but I didn't then. She paused. The FBI says there are going to be trials, multiple trials, and I'll have to testify at all of them. Face these men in court and tell the world what they did. Can you handle that? I have to. If I don't, they might go free, and I can't let that happen. You're stronger than you think. You keep saying that. Maybe I'm starting to believe it. They talked for another hour about nothing important in the weather, the food at the safe house, Lily's progress in therapy. Normal conversation, the kind Emma probably hadn't had in years. When they finally hung up, Raven felt something settle in his chest. Peace, maybe. Or just the knowledge that they'd done something that actually mattered. On day 6 at the cabin, Diesel spotted something during his watch, 2 vehicles coming up the access road, moving slowly. "We've got company," he said over the radio. Everyone grabbed weapons and took positions. Raven moved to the window, rifle ready, watching as 2 black SUVs pulled up in front of the cabin. The doors opened and Agent Chen stepped out, hands raised and empty. "Hold fire," Raven yelled. "It's the FBI." He went outside and Chen smiled tiredly at him. "You're a hard man to surprise," she said. "Occupational hazard. What are you doing here? Bringing news. Can we talk inside?" They gathered in the cabin's main room and Chen laid out a folder full of documents on the table. "We've made 37 arrests in the past week," and she said, including 2 senators, a federal judge, 5 state politicians, and more than 20 others. The trafficking network is completely dismantled. Every location has been raided, every victim recovered. "How many total?" Blade asked quietly. 63 girls across 5 states, ages 12 to 22. All of them are now in protective custody, receiving treatment. "And the bounty?" Raven asked. "Gone. Vincent Holloway's in custody, and his accounts are frozen. We've also arrested 4 individuals who accepted the bounty and were actively hunting you. They're facing federal charges." "So we're clear." "You're clear," Chen confirmed. "You and your crew are no longer in danger. You're free to resume your lives." Wrench laughed, a sharp, slightly hysterical sound. "Just like that, we go from hiding in the mountains to everything's fine." "Just like that," Chen said. "Though I should warn you, you're still going to be famous for a while. The media isn't going to let this story die anytime soon." "We can handle media," Raven said. Chen stood to leave, then paused. "One more thing. Emma asked me to give you this." She handed Raven a sealed envelope. "What is it?" "I don't know. She wouldn't tell me." After Chen left, Raven opened the envelope. Inside was a single photograph and a handwritten note. The photograph showed Emma and Lily standing with their parents outside what looked like their family home. All 4 of them were smiling real smiles, not the fake kind people put on for cameras. The note read, "Thank you for giving me back my family. Thank you for teaching me that good people still exist. Thank you for not driving past. You saved my life, but more than that, you gave me a reason to believe in people again. I'll never forget you. Love, Emma." Raven stared at the photo for a long time, memorizing their faces, the joy in their eyes. "We did good," Blade said softly beside him. "Yeah," Raven said. "We did." They left the cabin 2 days later, riding south this time instead of running. The morning air was crisp and clean, and for the first time in over a week, Raven felt like he could breathe without checking over his shoulder. The crew rode in silence for the first 50 miles, processing everything that had happened. Processing the fact that they were alive, free, and somehow still together despite everything. "Where are we heading?" Wrench finally asked over the comm. "California," Raven said. "Emma's family lives in San Diego. Figured we'd pay them a visit. That's 8 hours from here. Then we better get moving." They stopped for gas and food at a truck stop just inside the California border. Inside, a television mounted above the counter showed CNN running a segment about the Black Hollow case. Raven's face flashed on the screen, along with footage of the ranch raid taken from Mouse's live stream. "That's you," the cashier said, staring at him. "Oh my God, that's actually you." "Just here for gas," Raven said, putting cash on the counter. "You're a hero. What you did saving all those girls, that's incredible." I'm not a hero. I just did what anyone should have done. But nobody else did, the cashier said, and there were tears in her eyes. My sister was taken when we were kids. 19 years ago, we never found her. What you did getting those girls back to their families, you gave me hope that maybe someone's out there doing the same for my sister. Raven didn't know what to say to that. The weight of it pressed down on him, the knowledge that Emma and the others weren't the only ones, that there were thousands more still missing, still suffering. I'm sorry about your sister, he said finally. Me too. The cashier wiped her eyes, but thank you for caring enough to stop. They rode for another 6 hours, stopping only when absolutely necessary. The landscape changed from mountains to desert to coastal hills, and by the time they reached San Diego, the sun was setting over the Pacific. Raven had called ahead using the number Emma had given him. Her father had answered, voice thick with emotion, and insisted they come for dinner. The Carter house was a modest suburban home with a neat lawn and a basketball hoop in the driveway. Before Raven could knock, the door flew open, and Emma stood there looking so different from the terrified girl at the gas station that he almost didn't recognize her. Her hair was clean and brushed. Her face had color in it. She was wearing jeans and a sweater instead of a tattered sundress. But most importantly, her eyes were alive again. You came, she said, and then she was hugging him, crying into his leather jacket. Couldn't stay away, Raven said, awkward with emotion. Had to make sure you were really okay. I'm getting there. Every day's a little better. Emma pulled back and looked at the rest of the crew standing on the lawn. All of you come in, please. The Carter family had prepared a feast. Mrs. Carter kept crying and hugging everyone. Mr. Carter kept shaking hands and saying thank you until the words lost meaning, and Lily sat quietly at the table watching everything with wide eyes. She hasn't talked much, Emma said quietly to Raven. The therapist says it's normal. Trauma affects everyone differently. How are you handling it? Raven asked. Some days are better than others. I have nightmares, panic attacks. Sometimes I smell something or hear something, and I'm back there, back in that basement. Emma's hands tightened around her water glass. But I'm alive. I'm home. And that's more than I thought I'd ever have again. During dinner, Mrs. Carter told them about the past 2 years, the searching, the false leads, the crushing disappointment each time a tip went nowhere. We hired 3 different private investigators, she said. Spent our savings, took out a second mortgage. But nobody could find her. The police said she probably ran away, that teenage girls do that. They stopped looking after 6 months. I never stopped believing she was alive, Mr. Carter said, his voice breaking. I couldn't let myself believe anything else. I'm sorry I couldn't find a way to contact you sooner, Emma said. They watched us constantly, any sign of resistance or escape attempts, and they'd punish us. I saw girls beaten half to death for trying to run. You don't have to talk about it, Mrs. Carter said quickly. Yes, I do. Emma's voice was firm. Because if I don't talk about it, if I pretend it didn't happen, then they win. They wanted us silent and ashamed and broken. I refuse to be any of those things. Raven felt pride swell in his chest. This girl, this survivor, was stronger than most people would ever be. After dinner, Emma asked to speak with Raven privately. They went out to the backyard where fairy lights strung between trees created a soft glow. I wanted to tell you something, Emma said. The FBI offered me witness protection. A new name, new city, new life. They said it would be safer, that some of the traffickers might try to retaliate. Are you taking it? Raven asked. No, because I'm not hiding anymore. I spent 2 years invisible, and I'm done with that. I'm going to testify at every trial. I'm going to look those men in the face and tell the world what they did. And then I'm going to live my life as loudly and visibly as possible. That takes courage. I learned from the best. Emma smiled. You could have driven past that gas station. You could have seen my message and decided it wasn't your problem. But you didn't. You stopped. You fought. You risked everything for a stranger. You weren't a stranger. You were a girl in trouble. Exactly. And that was enough for you. Emma's eyes were shining. That's what I want to be. Someone who doesn't look away. Someone who fights for people who can't fight for themselves. What are you saying? I'm saying I want to study criminal justice, become an FBI agent or a victim advocate or something where I can help other survivors. Turn what happened to me into something useful. Raven felt his throat tighten. Your parents must be proud. They're terrified, but they support me. And Lily, Emma glanced back at the house. Lily's going to need time. Years, probably. But she's got the best support system now. Our parents, therapists, victim advocates. She'll heal. And you? I'm healing too. Slowly, but I'm getting there. They stood in comfortable silence for a moment, and then Emma said something that surprised him. There are still more girls out there. The FBI said Black Hollow was just one network. There are others, hundreds, maybe thousands of girls still trapped. I know. So what are you going to do about it? Raven looked at her. What do you mean? I mean, you've got a crew of skilled people who just pulled off an impossible rescue. You've got national attention. You've got resources and connections now. Are you just going to go back to riding around aimlessly? Or are you going to keep fighting? Emma, I'm serious. What happened at Black Hollow that could happen again? Should happen again. There are girls right now writing SOS messages that nobody sees. What about them? Raven hadn't let himself think about that. Hadn't let himself consider the possibility that this was more than a one-time thing. You're asking me to become some kind of vigilante rescue operation. I'm asking you to do what you're good at, seeing people who need help and actually helping them. That's not sustainable. We got lucky at Black Hollow. We could have all been killed, but you weren't. And 18 girls are free because of that risk. How many more could be free if you kept taking risks like that? Raven shook his head. It's not that simple. Why not? He saw, because he stopped trying to articulate the fear he hadn't wanted to acknowledge. Because I'm not a hero, Emma. I'm a broken-down ex-Marine who spent the last 20 years running from his past. What happened at Black Hollow was instinct, not some grand moral mission. So make it a mission, Emma said softly. Make it mean something. Because right now you saved my life and gave me a reason to believe in people again. Imagine how many other people need that same belief. Before Raven could respond, Lily appeared in the doorway, silhouetted against the house lights. Emmy, she said quietly, can you come inside? Of course, baby. Emma squeezed Raven's arm. Think about what I said. She went inside and Raven stood alone in the backyard, Emma's words echoing in his head. He found his crew in the driveway, standing around their motorcycles and smoking. We need to talk, he said. They gathered in a circle and Raven told them about Emma's proposal, not explicitly stated, but implied. The idea of continuing what they'd started, of actively looking for people who needed help. That's insane, Wrench said immediately. We're bikers, not superheroes. Superheroes don't exist, Blade said. But people who give a damn, those exist. And we just proved we're pretty good at it. We also almost died multiple times, Snake pointed out. But we didn't, Phoenix said, her bandaged arm held close. And think about what we accomplished. 18 girls home safe, 63 total across 5 states. An entire trafficking network destroyed. That's not nothing. It's also not sustainable, Diesel argued. We can't just ride around looking for trouble. Why not? Mouse asked. We've been riding around to doing nothing for years. At least this way we'd be doing something that matters. This is crazy, Wrench said, but Raven could hear the uncertainty in his voice. Maybe, Raven said, but Emma's right. There are more people out there who need help. And we've got skills, resources, and the kind of reputation now that opens doors. So what are you proposing? Blade asked. I'm proposing we ride with purpose, keep our eyes open. When we see someone in trouble, really in trouble, we help. No big organization, no official anything. Just people doing the right thing. The Hells Angels version of Neighborhood Watch, Rico said, and despite the tension, people laughed. Something like that. They argued for another hour, voices rising and falling, but slowly a consensus emerged. They'd try it. Not as a formal operation, just as a philosophy. They'd ride and they'd pay attention, and when they saw someone writing SOS literally or metaphorically, they wouldn't drive past. The next morning, Emma and her family stood on the lawn as the crew prepared to leave. Mrs. Carter packed them food for the road. Mr. Carter shook each of their hands. And Lily, after a long moment of hesitation, walked up to Raven and hugged him. She didn't say anything, didn't need to. The hug said everything. Emma walked with Raven to his bike, carrying something wrapped in brown paper. What's that? He asked. Open it. Inside was the photograph of his motorcycle's fuel tank, the one with SOS written in blood. Someone had cleaned the bike since then, but Mouse had taken a picture before they did. I had it printed and framed, Emma said, as a reminder that sometimes the worst moments lead to the best outcomes. That blood and pain and fear can transform into hope and freedom and justice. Emma, keep it. And every time you think about giving up or looking away, remember that day. Remember that you stopped. Remember that you fought. Remember that you saved not just my life, but Lily's life and the lives of 18 other girls who thought they'd never see their families again. Raven took the frame, his vision blurring. I'm not good at goodbyes. Then don't say goodbye, say see you later. Because I meant what I said, I'm going into criminal justice, which means our paths might cross again. I hope they do, Emma smiled. Me too. Now go, the highway's calling. The crew rolled out of San Diego as the sun climbed higher, engines roaring in perfect harmony. They rode north, no destination in mind, just the open road and the knowledge that they were different people than they'd been 2 weeks ago. 2 hours into the ride, Raven's phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. There's a girl in Sacramento who needs help. She's been messaging online forums saying her stepfather is trafficking her to his friends. Nobody's listening. Will you? The message included an address and screenshots of the girl's posts. Raven pulled over and the crew gathered around him. What is it? Blade asked. He showed them the message. Who sent it? Snake asked. Don't know. But it's real. You can see the posts, the desperation. They looked at each other and Raven saw the same thought cross everyone's face. This was it. The moment Emma had predicted. The first test of whether they meant what they'd said. Sacramento's 6 hours from here, Phoenix said. I know. We'd have to confirm its real plan and approach, figure out how to help without making things worse, Mouse said, already pulling out his laptop. I know that too. Could be dangerous, Wrench added. Everything we do is dangerous. Blade grinned. So we're doing this. We're actually doing this. Raven looked at his crew. This ragtag group of misfits and outcasts who'd somehow become family. They'd been through hell together and come out the other side. They'd saved lives, made a difference, and now they had a choice. Keep riding and let someone else handle it, or stop, investigate, and maybe save another life. It wasn't really a choice at all. Yeah, Raven said, starting his engine. We're doing this. They rode towards Sacramento, the wind in their faces and purpose in their hearts. Behind them, San Diego disappeared into the distance. Ahead, an unknown girl waited for help that might never come. Unless they made it come. Unless they stopped. Because that's what they did now. They stopped. They fought. They saved people. Not because they were heroes. Not because they were looking for glory. But because when you see someone drowning, you don't debate whether to throw them a rope. You just throw it. 3 weeks later, Raven got a package at the motel where they were staying outside Portland. Inside was a newspaper clipping about a trafficking ring in Sacramento that had been exposed after an anonymous tip led to multiple arrests. A 15-year-old girl had been rescued and reunited with her mother. Attached to the clipping was a note in Emma's handwriting. One down, thousands to go. Keep riding, keep fighting, keep stopping. The world needs more people like you. Love, Emma. Raven pinned the clipping to the wall next to the framed photograph of SOS written in blood. The next morning, they rode out of Portland with no destination and every purpose. The highway stretched endlessly ahead, full of possibility and danger and people who needed help. And this time, they weren't just passing through. They were paying attention. They were ready. Because monsters survive when good people keep driving past. But Cole Raven Maddox and his crew weren't driving past anymore. They were stopping. And that made all the difference in the world.